Ladies and gentlemen, I did a story about last year about this officer, Timothy Loman. For those of you who don't know who Timothy Loman is, he was the former Cleveland police officer who was responsible of killing 12-year-old Tamir Rice. Killed a little boy within 2 seconds. So now the Cleveland police union is planning on fighting to get Timothy Loman his job back. And Tamir's mother, her name was Samaria Rice, said, "No way. I will not allow this to happen." So I'm gonna go ahead and read this article. This article comes from Cleveland.com. And it says why the cop who shot Tamir Rice shouldn't get his job back, Andrea Smarkus. And I'm going to go ahead and read this article. It says Samaria Rice raised her voice to be heard over the sound of trucks rumbling by the Cleveland Police Union Hall on West 58th Street Monday morning. She come to deliver 5 boxes of online petitions signed by more than 170,000 people urging the Cleveland Patrolmen's Association and its president, Jeff Farmer, to stop fighting for a man who never should have been a cop, the officer who shot her son Tamir. And it continues saying the union has already lost an arbitration over the firing of Tamir Loman, but Farmer isn't giving up. He's appealing the ruling to the courts. And it says people are fed up with the CPPA's attempt to bring Lomans back to the force, Rice says. This officer has been deemed unfit by top law enforcement officials, but for some reason, Jeff Farmer wants him back on the Cleveland streets. I'm going to stop you right there. You see what they're trying to do, ladies and gentlemen? The police union is trying to protect their own. They know that Loman is unstable to become a police officer. Why would you basically kill a kid within 2 seconds? He was only 12 years old and he was playing a toy gun, and this officer approached this kid, shot him within 2 seconds. So, the mother, Tamir, now is trying to fight and tell the union, please don't allow this officer back on the force. So I'm going to continue to say Rice and her supporters have been lunging those boxes around for almost a week before a woman emerged from behind the hall's blue metal doors and told them they could bring the petitions inside. They tried to present them to Farmer at a tense May 28th meeting of the Cleveland Community Police Commission. The activists placed box after box in front of Farmer and his fellow commissioners. The 13-member body is tasked with providing recommendations from the community on police-related reforms to the city, police department, and the U.S. Department of Justice. Other commissioners look uncomfortable, not Farmer. He stares steadily at Rice, tattooed arms crossed in front of his chest. This isn't a story about grieving black mom versus an aggrieved white cop, though it's tempting to see it that way. It's about common sense. Rehiring Loman is a terrible idea on that point, so Maria Rice and the city agreed. I'm going to stop you right there. So Maria Rice been through a lot. She lost her 12-year-old son to police violence. And Loman and everybody else knows in that department, Loman is unstable. He is unfit to become a police officer. And then we've been hearing that, before this incident happened, that he didn't listen to his supervisors. And I'm going to explain that in a second, but he really didn't listen to his supervisors, and he was at a police academy doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. It said Tamir was 12 in the fall of 2014 when Loman, an officer in training, leaped from his cruiser outside the Cadell Recreation Center and shot him in under 2 seconds. Tamir had been playing with a toy gun that looked real. A grand jury declined to indict Lohman and his partner, veteran officer Frank Garback, for Tamir's death in December 2015. Cleveland police launched their own investigation, and in May of 2017, Lohman was sacked not for killing Tamir, but for providing false information on his job application. Now let me stop you right there. So they know that he was unstable, but you saw what I mean. But they given false information on his job application on why they let him go from the get-go, right? So he tried to apply for a job at an independent police department. But now the police union and his lawyer are going to tell you guys, well, he wasn't indicted, he wasn't charged, so he has every right to seek employment from another police department. So Tamir's mom, what she was trying to do is letting the public know that he shouldn't have been a police officer in the first place because he is totally unstable. And I'm going to continue reading this article. It says, at issue is Lohman's short-front employment with the city of Independence. When he applied to become a cop in Cleveland, he wrote that he left his position as a patrolman with the Independence Police Department for personal reasons. And then they said, if you resign August former, what else do you need to say? But what they didn't, but see, I'm gonna stop you right there. But what they didn't tell you is that that he was going to be fired, and then so he decided, no, I'm not gonna allow that to happen. So I'm gonna write a resignation letter, so he can try to cover his own tracks. So I'm gonna continue on. He said a lot more, concluded arbitrator James E. Ramel. When it's true that Lohman resigned, it was only because he was being shown the door for a series of incidents during his initial field training that lead his supervisors to conclude that he lacked the maturity and the emotional stability to be a police officer. Those incidents were detailed in a letter from Deputy Chief Jim Polak placed in Lohman's independent personnel file, and Cleveland didn't bother to read the file before hiring him. Lohman was distracted and weeping on the firing range, wrote Deputy Chief Polak. He could not follow simple directions, he could not communicate clear thoughts, and his handgun performance was dismal. Polak said the young recruit's emotional meltdown was so acute, Sergeant Greg Tenorello concluded he was not mentally prepared to do firearms training and stored Lohman's weapons, at least for the day. The sergeant attributed Lohman's difficulties to issue with an on-again, off-again girlfriend. I'm going to stop you right there. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, he did not follow instructions by his supervisor. Even with weapons training, he wasn't following instructions. And it shows that he was totally unstable to become a cop. And they still allow him to become a cop anyway. I'm going to continue on and say, but that wasn't all. Lohman appeared to think instruction from supervisors were optional. Polak wrote, neglecting to secure his gun in his locker when he was off duty and ignoring a directive to wear his bulletproof vest, complaining that he was too warm, so he took it off. Here's the kicker. It should ring in our ears like gunshots. I do not believe time or nor training will be able to change or correct these deficiencies, Polak wrote. Polak met with Lohman to give the bad news. I'm going to stop you right there. You see what they're saying. Polak, who wrote this, who is supposed to be his supervisor, Lohman's supervisor, saying that he's going to be fired. So what Lohman's doing, he wrote a resignation letter so he can find another job, another police department to go to. So, and this is really interesting. So he said upon hearing he was going to be fired, Lohman turned in a letter of resignation. Then 5 months later, he applied to work in Cleveland. The arbitrator omitted certain facts from his application that he knew or at least suspected would jeopardize his future employment as a police officer. His further said it was reasonable for Public Safety Director Michael McGrath to decide that Lohman could no longer function as a competent member of the police force because he lacked trustworthiness and honesty, two core characteristics of a professional police officer. So why push so hard to get Lohman back into a Cleveland police uniform? Lohman told the truth. Foreman said he resigned in the story. Also, if independents thought he was unfit to be a cop, why didn't they just fire him? And the union contends the application did not clearly direct Lohman to further explanation in his action for independence. So I'm going to stop you right there. So in other words, the union is protecting him. That independents, the police department, wanted him fired. So one of his supervisors is going to let him know that. So instead of being fired, he's writing his resignation letter and then try to work for the Cleveland Police Department. So it's really interesting how the union want to protect the officer who is mentally unstable to become a cop in the first place and kill a 12-year-old kid within 2 seconds. Unbelievable. I'm going to finish this. He said, Tamir's death was a tragedy. He said, but Lohman got a raw deal. I see Lohman because I've gotten to know him as a good son to his parents. Former said he's a church-going person, likes to participate in sports. He has a manner that is truthfully very mellow. Former wouldn't mind having Tim as his own son. Lohman would make a good cop. Former would stake his reputation on it if only people would just give a chance. He's never going to get the right reception from certain people out there that connect him with Tamir Rice. He's a good kid. But policing is a job for grown-ups. I'm going to stop you right there. So you see what he's trying to do. He's trying to convince the Cleveland Police Department a second chance of giving this guy his job back. And he said he staked his reputation on it. He's a good kid. He's trying to give him positive things to say to give this guy his job back. So this is really funny, and I'm going to finish with this article here. And it says Tamir is the only kid in the story. At 12, he still loved Legos and Curious George and listed his favorite food as cheese pizza and chicken nuggets. Lohman, who was in his 20s when he shot Tamir, might well be a decent guy, so have a beer with him. Don't hand him a badge and a gun. So even the media is trying to play nice with this former officer. Get this, guys. If you kill a 12-year-old kid within 2 seconds, and if the Independence Police Department knew he was unstable, why did the Cleveland Police Department read his personal file before hiring him? And they showing time and time again he is unstable. He couldn't even put his weapon as an off-duty officer, and still they hired this guy anyway. And this is why you see Tamir's mother fighting so hard to let the union know this is not a good idea of bringing him back because this guy is unstable and he killed my son. That's what she's trying to tell them, and still they try so hard to bring him back. Even people from the police department said it wasn't a good idea, but this guy who was with the union said, no, let's bring him back, give him a second chance, blah, 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 blah. So it shows, ladies and gentlemen, that this is how police officers do. They say, well, I have evidence. We have, basically, he wasn't fired, or basically he was, quote unquote, wasn't arrested or wasn't indicted. So he has a right to seek employment elsewhere. And now a mother has lost her son years ago, and now you want to push him to get his job back, and he was already unstable as it is. Y'all, tell me what you think about this. Like, click, subscribe, and remember to click the notification bell for all the news and commentary. With that being said, this is Lions Den signing off. Deuces.